Yeah, yeah. He retired as a general. His last 24 years in the Army, though, he was at West Point as the head of the physical education department there. And as the head of the physical education department, he had probably the coolest title that you can have. At least guys in the room, you're going to think this is really cool. He was called Master of the Sword. Yeah, right? Master of the Sword. I mean, I always joke and say, if somebody would call me Master of the Toaster, I think my kids probably call me Master of my recliner, but he was Master of the Sword because that department was the fencing department in the 1800s, and that title stuck with him. And one of the things all male cadets had to do when I was there, now they're giving this opportunity to women at West Point, is all male cadets in your freshman year, they called plebes, had to take boxing class. Now, raise your hand if you've ever boxed before. There's a few out there, right? Okay, great. Let me tell you, people who taught boxing, and they taught me boxing, it was part of the physical education department, so who do you think they worked for? My dad. Yeah, they worked for, think about that. Some of you are thinking right now, man, it'd be nice to get my boss's smart aleck kid in the ring, just for a few rounds, okay? And that's what these guys, you've heard the term employee engagement? Let me tell you something. When Cadet Anderson showed up for class on those days, these guys were engaged. They were really excited to have me come in because it would go something like this. Well, today we're going to teach you all how to block a jab. Cadet Anderson, why don't you climb in the ring with me right now? So I get in the ring and they say, okay, Anderson, defend yourself. Now remember, we haven't learned how to block a jab yet. So basically, they said, defend yourself. I put my hands up and all of a sudden the punches just start coming. Foo, foo, foo. And I'm just, dish, dish, dish. And all I heard was, that's not it, Anderson. You're going to have to do better than that, Anderson. You're going to have to work harder than that. And these guys were having a great day. But why did we take boxing? It's interesting. What was it about boxing class? Well, let me tell you, going to boxing class, the good boxers and the bad boxers had something in common. Whether or not you were a great boxer or a bad boxer, you had this one thing in common at West Point. See, it didn't matter whether or not I had a differential equations class. It didn't matter if I had calculus or if I had to do a presentation or if I had a group project due that day. Nothing mattered. Because every morning when I woke up and I knew I had boxing class, one thing came to my mind. Somebody's going to hit me in the face today. It didn't matter if you were a good boxer or a bad boxer. Now see, West Point is not a boxing school. West Point is our leadership academy, right? It's the United States Military Academy at West Point. And what they were doing was they're preparing young leaders of character for selfless service in defense of our country. Young leaders of character. So what they were doing was preparing us to lead, and specifically preparing us to face our fears. Because every time we climbed into the ring, we were facing our fears because somebody was going to hit us in the face. And at the end of every session, at the end of every semester, you took graded bouts. You get in and you box against your classmates. And these were 3 rounds, and you get in there, and they didn't grade you on whether or not you quote-unquote won. Winning wasn't the thing. It wasn't about whether you knocked the other person out. It was whether or not you boxed. What happened when you got hit in the face the first time? Did you turn and run? Did you lose your mind and start just swinging for the fences? Right? Actually, the only bout I actually won when I was a cadet at West Point, I got knocked down, and when I got up on my feet again, I lost my mind. And I did. The punches were totally undisciplined, and I caught the guy with a lucky punch and knocked him out. But I got the lowest grade because I was supposed to have a plan. I was trained. I was supposed to stick to my training. As soon as fear hit, or the punch hit, same thing, what did I do? Did I turn and run? Or did I box? Did I have a plan? And did I adapt when the plan didn't go right? It sounds a lot like what these young men and women are doing in Afghanistan and Iraq right now, right? And they've been doing for the last more than a decade. Because when they leave the safety of their of their defensive positions and they go out into the neighborhoods in Iraq and they go out in the hills in Afghanistan, what happens? When the first bullet starts flying, do they turn and run? Or do they lose their cool and charge right at a machine gun nest? Getting killed and killing everybody behind them? See, what was West Point preparing us for? They're preparing us in the small things for the big tests to come. For the big tests to come. Let me go with something maybe is a little bit more universal. I bet you I'm going to hit maybe 95% on this. How many of you in here have ever started working out before? All right. Yeah, gotcha. So here's the morning, right? It's January, right? New Year's resolution. I'm going to get in shape this year. This is the year I'm going to do it. Set my alarm 30 minutes early. The alarm goes out. You jump out of bed. You get dressed. You go to the gym. You go for your walk. You go to your class, whatever you do. You're a little bit sore the next day, but you feel good. The next time that alarm goes off, you're like, I'm sticking with this. And each time I make that choice to get out of bed early, it makes it easier to make that same choice again. And I start this fitness regimen. And I'm feeling pretty good. And the pants are getting a little bit looser. And you're feeling pretty good about yourself. And everything's going great until that morning. Y'all know what morning I'm talking about, right? Maybe it's raining outside. Maybe one of your kids had nightmares, woke you up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and you had to sit with them for an hour to get them back to sleep. Maybe a combination. And you're sitting there, and that alarm goes off, and you're underneath, and the comforter feels so good. And you're like, oh, I don't want to get out. So you hit that snooze alarm. No big deal. Really, it's just one decision. It's not wrong to do that. But what's that the start of? It's the start of the end of your workout regimen, isn't it? Because each time I make a choice, it makes it easier to make that same choice again. The next time that alarm goes off, it's easier to find an excuse not to do it. Each choice we make, we get closer and closer to a habit, a good habit or a bad habit. People follow us not because of what we can do, they follow us because of who we are, and who we are is the sum total of our habits. It's the sum total of our habits. And as Winston Churchill said, character may be manifested in the great moments, but it's formed in the small ones. Character may be manifested in the great moments, but it's formed in the small ones. In other words, lots of us believe that, you know what, this little white lie is no big deal, but when the big test comes, I'm going to be ready. And to that I always say, if you never lifted 50 pounds, what makes you think you're going to lift 300? Right? It's just like building a muscle. You got to exercise it in the small things to build it up, to prepare yourself for the big test to come. You got to exercise it. And the thing about exercise is, right, it doesn't matter. It's not going to work for you unless you break a sweat. If you go to the gym and you set the treadmill to 1 mile per hour, and then you just walk like this, you're not going to get any better shape, are you? No. You got to be uncomfortable. There's got to be some discomfort involved. To build these muscles, to build our character, we've got to sweat. Yeah, I've got a good friend of mine, his name is Colonel Craig Flowers. He does a lot of character work in colleges and things and working with athletic departments. And he calls them character reps. Just like building a muscle, you got to do a character rep. You got to do this. Build these muscles in the small things so you're prepared for the big choices, just like they were doing in boxing class with us. I told you that, yeah, there were some moments in here you probably all said, ouch. I want to tell you what the good news is, all right? The good news, some people have called me a character evangelist, and I'm good with that, all right? I am good with that. Evangelists have revivals, right? Well, guess what? I'm working for a character revival in our culture today. That's me. I'm your character evangelist, Dave Anderson. It's nice to meet you. The good news is, no matter where you are as far as your courage goes or any of the other, you could be this guy. You could be this guy right now knowing, I got work to do. Start doing those character reps. You could be in either one of these two. You've been strong. You've been working out. You've been keeping fit. Right? You've been exercising these muscles. But I want to warn you, one quick warning. you may believe, and you may even show if you take this character assessment, that you're strong in one area. But guess what happens? Just like any muscle, if you stop exercising it, it becomes weaker and vulnerable. So you got to continue to exercise these things, right? But the good news is it all starts with a new choice today. Whether or not you've been a person who's been characterized, who has the habit of courage or not. Maybe you've been a person who put your head in the sand. Maybe you've been a person who's avoided conflict. That's okay. That's okay. Good, you've held a mirror up to yourself. You see that. You have an opportunity right now today to make a different choice. It's 100% in your control. What are you going to choose? What muscle are you going to exercise? My hope and my prayer is when you walk out of here this weekend, after getting all the great educational opportunities that you have, you go back to wherever you serve and to the people you serve, whether it's at work or at home, and you start exercising the habits of character. You have the courage to start working on the things you need to work on. Start having those conversations with people, trying to make other people better, trying to make your situation better. I know it's crazy in healthcare right now. Crazy in healthcare right now means we need leaders. We need people who are willing to face failure, face their fears, and say, you know what, let's try this then. Let's try this then. Let's do this. I just heard about this. You know what, we really need to train leaders around here to be prepared for what's coming. We don't know what's coming, but we do know we need leaders. So maybe we need to focus on leadership development. You can start with a new choice today. A new choice today. That's my hope and my prayer for you, that you walk out here and say, yeah, I'm going to make some new choices. I'm going to start building my character. I'm going to lead my team in a different way. The fastest way to change a team is to change a leader. You can't be a leader of character without exercising courage. Start exercising courage. You've got the opportunity every single day in everything that you do. Be the leader of character your workplace needs, your family needs, our culture needs. Start exercising.